you can see me and we can get going.
Great, everybody. This is Serge Dedina, the chair of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group at Sandag. I'm going to call the meeting to order with my coffee cup on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at approximately 11:35 a.m. And I'd like to welcome all of you to the Sandag Shoreline Preservation Working Group. And I guess, Sarah, you already confirmed that we have a quorum. Is that correct?
We have quorum, yes.
Awesome, great. And then I'd like to update the members and public on our new process for both members and public comments. The primary members will be using their cameras and we will take live public comments. Members are asked to turn on their cameras or raise their hands when they have a comment or question. Then I will recognize you to speak, and that's consistent with the Sandag board meeting. And then just want to make sure all of you guys are clear, I'm really not good at managing a meeting and a Zoom meeting. So if for some reason you see me eating when the camera's supposed to be off, like last night at our city council meeting, I apologize. It reminds me why I wasn't really good up in the lifeguard tower at the Silver Strand State Beach, managing the complicated radio dispatch. I was really good at making rescues. And this reminds me of that. So I'm going to try. Sarah will help me if you guys raise your hands and I don't call on you. I don't want anybody think that I'm trying to not ask them. That goes for members of the public. So I'm going to rely on our great Sandag staff to help me make sure I call on everybody. And thanks to everybody for their patience. So members are asked to turn on their cameras or raise their hands when they have a comment or question, and then I will recognize you to speak. And then Sarah will now provide a quick reminder on how the public comments will work. Go ahead, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, so in addition to emailing comments, the public can also provide live comment during today's meeting. And in order to provide live comment, you can join today's Zoom meeting through the link on the agenda or by dialing one of the numbers from your phone that are on the agenda cover page. And when public comments are called for on an item on the Zoom platform, you can click on the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar. I believe that's on the upper right of your screen. And the chair will call on you by name. And if you are participating by phone, you can dial *9 on your phone to indicate your desire to speak. And the chair will call on you by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. And the organizers, our great Sandag production staff, will unmute you when it's your time to speak. And all of those comments, whether they're emailed or live, will be made part of the meeting record today.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Well, we'll get started with the meeting. And our first order of business is welcome introductions. And since we're in a virtual environment, we're not going to do the full introductions like we normally do. And I know that's part of the funnest part of being at this meeting. It's a great team, and I know we all enjoy that. But I just instead I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us. I did want to welcome our new member of the group who we talked to earlier, Kanani Leslie, who will serve on the working group as a Coastal Commission representative. Welcome, Kanani. We're great to have you here, and hopefully at some point next year we'll be meeting together. Maybe outside. Maybe we talked to Sarah. Maybe permanently we'll just have a tarp up at the beach or in the seaside parking lot in Mission Beach parking lot, and we can hang out there. So we'll choose a different parking lot, beach park. That'd actually be a good idea. Beach parking lot or street end every meeting. I know the technical wizards of Sandag are now freaking out about how we do that, but I think it'd be a great idea. Anytime we're out in the field, it's even better. And then, I know we had the really sad news for all of us that our former colleague from the Coastal Commission, Greg Burr, passed away a few months ago. It's been a tough year, but that was tough news to hear for a lot of us. Greg, I think anybody who worked with Greg knew that he embodied a spirit of public service and coastal service. I really enjoyed having him at meetings and to work with, especially in Sea Level Rise and IB. I know we put together a climate panel for the League of Women Voters not too long ago. It was great. He was absolutely on point and awesome. So I just want to send our condolences to him and his family and to his colleagues. Well loved, and he will truly be missed. So anyway, I'm not sure, Sarah, if you had any comments you wanted to make, or even Kanani.
Yeah, thanks. Gabe has just been such an integral part of our team, and we miss him dearly. And I just hope that I can, continue his hard work on this panel and in the commission and in the coast in general. So thanks for having me and for, sharing those words about Gabe.
Great, thank you. Sarah, any words you'd like to share?
No, I just echo Kanani's comments, and Gabe was a good friend to all of us who had worked with him, and Kanani, we're really happy to have you on the group. Thanks for joining us today for your first meeting.
Great, and just highlights that, I know the coastal management world is very small in San Diego, and even, it's not that much bigger in California. And so, we work really closely together and have these strong professional friendships that go back decades. I just point out, Dwight was active in helping us save the stop the IB breakwater project when I was in high school. So that's how long we're around, right? We love the beach. So I think all of us are here because we're committed to our coast. And so, anytime we lose somebody, that's a big loss, right? And especially in such a pivotal agency like the Coastal Commission. So again, our condolences. And now we will move on. And to item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes. And so the Shoreline Preservation Working Group is asked to review and approve the minutes from its June 4th, 2020 meeting. The second item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the June 4th, 2020 meeting. Are there any public comments on this item?
I don't think we're seeing any raised hands.
Okay. Are there any member comments on the minutes? Great. With that, then can I have a motion to approve this item?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Thank you.
And okay.
Lindsay.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Was that Bill? Or Sarah?
Kelly got it.
Oh, Kelly. Great. Thank you. And then I have a motion by Dwight and a second by Kelly. I'll call on Sarah for the roll call vote, please. Please say yes or no and abstain when called on, Sarah.
Thank you. City of Imperial Beach.
Aye.
Thank
Yes.
you. City of Del Mar, Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Bhat Patel.
Aye.
Thank you. I believe City of Chula Vista is absent. City of Coronado, Councilmember Bill Sankey.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Encinitas, Deputy Mayor Hinsey.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe City of National City is absent. City of Oceanside, Councilmember Keim.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
City of San Diego, Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Solana Beach, Deputy Mayor Hagenauer.
Yes.
Thank you. County of San Diego is absent. Port of San Diego is absent. And U.S. Navy, Walt Wilson.
Present.
Is that a yes for the minutes, Walt?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that item passes with all voters, all members present voting yes.
Great. Thanks, everybody. So now we'll move on to item number 3, public comments and communication and member comments. Members of the public shall have the opportunity to address the working group on any issue within the jurisdiction of Sandag that is not on the agenda. I'll ask members of the public who wish to offer public comment not related to a matter on today's agenda to please raise your hand at this time so we can call on you. Are there any raised hands from the public? And then we'll move on to member comments.
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Great. Any member comments?
Doesn't look like any raised hands or anyone asking to speak.
I'll just make a comment first. Obviously, it's been a slow surf year. We have a little bit of swell on the way, but we were lucky with the last king tides. I think it was a little bit of southwest, a little combo swell, so not a lot happening, which I guess we were lucky if you don't surf. But we'll see what happens with La Nina and how that plays out with surf. But it's clear that I think this committee and this body in Sandag and all of us in San Diego County are going to be ahead of the curve in terms of being prepared for hopefully a lot more investment in natural climate solutions and coastal adaptation. I think we have the capacity to be really national, statewide, national, and global leaders on how we address these integrated projects. And again, I'm just going to highlight, I spent a little bit of time in the parking lot at Seaside, the south end of Cardiff, this summer, posted up, working remotely when there was surf, but really impressed with the project there, and that integrated, just brilliant transportation infrastructure. The dune restoration project was just absolutely amazing. The wetland restoration project, public access, really impressive. And now we just get state parks to work on improving that parking lot and the facilities there. That might be better, but actually, seriously, I think that is a great template, and everything we've been doing to setting up for, hopefully, in theory, it could be substantial investment on the part of the state of California if there's a climate bond passed, and the governor's new commitment on natural climate solutions. I think that's key. And number two, vis-a-vis potentially the federal government and renewed interest in climate adaptation and these integrated infrastructure projects. So I just want to thank all of you, but especially our brilliant Sandag staff and Sarah and her team for really being ahead of the curve and thinking about how we do this. But all of you and the agency partners as well. I think, again, we're in a good position to really have a new round of potential investment in helping us preserve the coast and then enhance our infrastructure, address our infrastructure, as well as increase public access and enhance the viability of our wetlands and watersheds. So with that, we'll move on. And any additional comments, anybody? Great.
I see
Sarah, I know you have some comments.
Yeah, there are a couple hands raised. I see Councilmember Hinsey first, and then Councilmember Gasterland, and then Councilmember Sanchez third.
Yeah, all I was going to chime in to say was that the lagoon restoration project is such a gift to our community. I had the chance in the last 3 weekends I've gone just because it's so beautiful to be able to use the bridges that were newly installed. And one of them actually does have a plaque in memorial of Gabe Burr. And it's just a beautiful opportunity to really appreciate a resource that, you can't fully appreciate unless you're right in the middle of it. And so that's what we get to experience now with our lagoon. So come visit if you haven't yet. It's beautiful. Dogs are welcome, no bikes, but other than that, it's a really gorgeous resource. So thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Councilmember Gasterland, Del Mar.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to give a thank you to this group. Well, present a thank you to this group for Bruce Smith of Sandag and his oversight of the bluff restoration and reinforcement projects that have been going on. I had the opportunity at the height of a king tide a couple Mondays ago at 9 a.m. I met Bruce and we were in our in the water up to about our thighs, looking at the color of the cement that had been used on one of the reinforcements. And Bruce was on it. He said, hey, it's a little too yellow, a little too dark. It doesn't blend with the bluffs. And it got redone and it's better. So I wanted to give that as an example because as these projects happen, it is so important for all of us to have our eyes on. There are several wall reinforcements that have now gone in, and they're very bright steel posts. So I'm really hoping that the ocean will take care of the reflection of the light at sunset of that for us. But I wanted to also invite everybody to come on down to Del Mar during these king tides and take a walk at low tide. It is just lovely out here right now, and you can see what Sandag has been accomplishing with good planning. At least from the looks of it. Thank you.
Perfect. And that's a great example of it. Absolutely the need to address infrastructure when we're talking about adaptation. That has to be one of the key things that we're focused on, right? That's, not even the low hanging and big hanging fruit that we have to address everywhere. So yeah, that's obviously a super important project. I think we have someone else. Is that correct, Sarah? Is it Bill?
Councilmember Sanchez, Oceanside.
Oh, Sanchez, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I wanted to say that I had a great honor and pleasure of working with Gabe when I was on the Coastal Commission. I think it was 2012 or 2013, can't remember, but he's been so great. And we, as you all know, we're looking at doing a study on Shoreline preservation. And so I did get a chance to talk with Gabe before, and talking about soft structures, and I'm so excited about what Encinitas has been able to do with living dunes. And so I'm really excited. I'm mayor-elect, so I feel like I'm going to really get into this, be able to get into this as someone who has been working on coastal issues for a very long time. So looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Mayor-elect Sanchez. And you definitely, Oceanside is that sort of like everything that can possibly go on with jetties, dredging, shoreline erosion, rocks, revetment, and different scenarios people are proposing is definitely, you guys are like ground zero for that. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out and how we can support that process.
Yeah, soft structures, no hard structures. Yes, thank you.
Great, okay. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.
Is that it? Sarah, any other comments?
I don't see raised hands, but I did just have a couple of staff comments, things I wanted to pass along to the group. So many of you might have seen over the summer that the State Water Quality Control Board actually changed their fee structure for 401 permits for beach sand nourishment. So in the past, that fee had just skyrocketed over the last few years, and it could cost up to or over $100,000 for a 401 permit. I'm happy to say that thanks to comments from Sandag and from a number of other coastal jurisdictions, that cost for that permit down to $2,000 for an application fee and $700 annually to maintain that permit. So I think that really makes that type of project a bit more feasible moving forward. Second update I wanted to provide was that Sandag was invited to a full grant proposal to the Ocean Protection Council for their Proposition 68 grant funding. That application was submitted in mid-November, and that is to start some planning work for a future regional beach sand nourishment project. So really building on the lessons learned from our previous efforts, taking into account information, local sea level rise assessments, information from our regional shoreline monitoring program. So we've got our fingers crossed. It's about a $10 million pot of funding available, but I think most entities in California applied or tried to submit applications. So it's going to be a tight race, but we'll see if we get that funding in spring.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Any additional comments from anybody? I just, that permit issue is a great example of how policy change at the state level can make significant differences. And I'm sure Councilmember Sankey Coronado remembers some of the issues with excavating sand from the Hotel Del redevelopment project that could have gone to Imperial Beach or Coronado. And there were issues just for the permits were so expensive and so hard to get that we didn't do it. And so I think that's a big, big issue, especially with these opportunistic sand projects. So thanks for helping work on that. That's a great just minor policy change. So anyway, with that, we'll go on, unless there's additional comments, we'll go on to item number 4, the Shoreline Preservation Working Group Charter Update and Consideration of Non-Voting Membership Expansion. And there isn't a presentation on this item, but I'll hand it over to Sarah to provide a brief overview. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so as noted in the report, periodically the working group is asked to review its membership. And at this time, we're asking the working group members to take a close look at the non-voting members of this working group. So there are currently 13 non-voting members that are broken into both community and technical advice roles. And as noted in the revised charter, which is attachment 2, technical advisors represent the Coastal Commission, the Division of Boating and Waterways, the State Departments of Fish and Wildlife and Parks and Recreation, the State Lands Commission, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the National Marine Fisheries Service. The community advisors represent the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, 3 representatives from nonprofit advocacy groups, and 1 representative from each of the fishing and the scientific community. And the charter has been updated to more explicitly detail the representation from these groups. So today we're looking for the working group to recommend that our regional planning committee accept dated charter. And in addition, if the working group decides that the non-voting membership of the working group should be expanded as part of discussion today, those changes will be reflected in the revised charter that goes before the Regional Planning Committee. And I just want to make note for the record that the charter will be updated to reflect that it's the Division of Boating and Waterways rather than the department as you see here today. And that correction will be made before the charter goes before the Regional Planning Committee. So I'll turn it back to the chair to lead the rest of our discussion.
Thanks, Sarah. And just wanted to say that, for those of you who are new, I think part of the great thing about this committee is just the extensive sort of discussion and dialogue about these big picture issues, and then obviously specific projects that we're approving. And so because we have a robust and diverse membership, but one of the things we wanted to look at considering is adding 2 non-voting members, a member for the environmental justice community. And a lot of times in coastal management, coastal issues, that comes down to folks that are really focused on equitable access to the coast as well, not just issues of pollution, et cetera. So, and their impact on low income and minority communities. So that's just something to think about. I know that's an issue that obviously we've addressed. And then obviously a representative, possibly a representative from Caltrans. As sea level rise planning continues to become integrated into SANDAG's planning work, these voices could add value to the discussion here at the working group level. Since there are a number of groups that could fill the environmental justice seat, or what I would call also equitable access, this would require SANDAG to solicit applications for this new seat. If the working group chooses to pursue this, SANDAG staff would return in the spring with information on how to move that process forward. Before I open up for discussion and other suggestions from the working group, are there any public comments on this item? If there are, please raise your hands.
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Great. With that, welcome, obviously welcome working group member and advisory group member comments.
I see a hand from Councilmember Warden.
Thanks. I think the addition of an environmental justice representative would be a good thing. I think adding Caltrans would be a good thing. And I would pose the question, is there an appropriate place for a cross-border representative? In what we do is we do that in other SANDAG groups, and we don't have one here. Maybe we should.
That's actually not a bad suggestion. So that's actually really interesting. And we've talked a lot about, sort of just providing more guidance for our partners, south of the border. So that's actually pretty interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, let me jump in a little, Serge, is that okay?
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I think Dwight brought up a really good idea. We've been working so cooperatively with the environmental folks down in TJ on the sewage and river valley issues. There ought to be, I'm guessing you might even have in the top of your Rolodex a couple of candidates for that particular idea. I think associating Caltrans with this, because they have such a huge effort going on with sea level rise infrastructure along the coast for roadways and vital infrastructure, is a great idea as well. And I think expanding our reach is probably a good thing, since so much of the coast is so dependent. I mean, so much of our lives, our jurisdictions, and our economy are dependent upon the coast. So the deeper we can get our bench, the better off we are as an organization.
Great. Thank you, guys. Any additional questions? Comments?
I see a hand from Councilmember Hensy.
Yeah, I support this recommendation, and I'm just curious to know the genesis of this recommendation. Was that a staff level recommendation that's coming to us today?
I think I would say, Sarah, it's kind of just joint. I think it's just, we've just been discussing the composition of the board for the advisory board for a while, and the technical group members, and just trying to figure out how we could make it more robust and obviously more representative. So I think one of the things that you saw in the last few years is the addition of Chula Vista and National City. And I think we didn't do a little better job of doing outreach to make sure they're included because of the issues of the Bayfront. And that also obviously includes more, underrepresented communities, especially in those communities. So I think it's just trying to make sure that we're more, we're reaching out to all of San Diego's populations that, are impacted by the coast and deal with the coast as well.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And then would applications be submitted to staff and then staff would vet the applications and make a recommendation to us to vote on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that I need to explore a little bit more with the legal counsel. But I think likely what we would do is form probably an ad hoc or a subgroup of this working group to sort of look at those applications and, you know, come up with criteria that we're looking for and then make a recommendation back to the working group as to who they'd like to move forward with having on board.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I see Councilmember Sanchez and then Councilmember Warden again.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a good idea. With Caltrans, I know that with some of the work with Caltrans, there are mitigation projects that a lot of it has to do with, you know, coastal resources. I know that, for example, the Winnebissa Lagoon, and going forward with that, it had actually a couple, you know, double credits. And that would be great to know that these kind of funds would be available for, say, some Caltrans projects, and it could be anywhere in the state that could, you know, contribute towards, say, local projects. As to environmental justice, absolutely. I think sometimes there's a disconnect between electeds and, say, grassroots communities. So I think that is a wonderful idea. I do have a question as to, you know, like how many groups there would be in these kind of subcategories. Are you looking at one or two or, you know, whatever it is? So that's something I would ask the committee who's going to be putting, guidelines together, look at, number of groups. Can't be too big because then you end up having a difficult time coming up with decisions. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Great. Additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I have my hand up. The question's really for staff or the members. Is there critical mass here where we can get this group too big to make it cumbersome? And if not, are there some groups that we know we work with that are important and hopefully sometimes give us money, but should they be invited to participate? For example, the Ocean Protection Council or the Coastal Conservancy. We have the Coastal Commission, but not the Coastal Conservancy. Both of those groups are heavily involved in coastal issues. Both have money that they pass out. And if it's not creating critical mass problems for getting our group too big, maybe we should consider inviting them as well.
Yeah, Chair Dedina, if I can weigh in just really quickly here. So in terms of kind of critical mass, I think looking at the non-voting membership, we can certainly expand that, a little bit beyond what we have now, because it doesn't cause any quorum issues for us. So it's great to have those perspectives. We know that we've got our voting membership lined up. So I don't think we're in a place where it's going to get too big here. My only caution about sort of expanding into maybe other state agencies, the ones that we have right now are sort of, I'll say, leftover, if you will, from our regional beach sand projects. It was so important to have those voices at the table when we were going through that. But it does pose maybe a little bit of a problem as we at some point go back to normal and at some point start meeting back in person. If those agencies are based, more in the Sacramento area, it's going to be harder for them to participate. So it's not that they couldn't be on board, but it might be a little bit difficult to have that engagement. And that's a conversation that I'm actually going to be having on the side with the Division of Boating and Waterways here in the next couple of months. We have them on our group, but it's very hard for them to participate given their location. So just something to consider as we move forward.
And I'm assuming all of us are thinking about, and the techno wizards are thinking about, when we do go back to normal in year zero, whatever that means. I'm not sure we're going to be normal again, but do we have integrated Zoom, virtual and, in-person platforms? So we're, reducing our emissions or whatever. So, and I think that goes the issue of Mexico, right? Like, can people call in, just to at least, be part of the meeting or something. So those are all, legitimate issues to talk about and, think about.
Well, my suggestion is I think we should leave all these options open and let Sarah and the staff work on them. And unless there's a good reason to not include them, my default would be let's include them. They can help us. And if they can participate virtually, if they can't come to an in-person meeting, that's great. And even if they aren't regular participants, if we have a contact point that we can work with who knows us, that can be valuable going forward.
So for kind of today's purposes, what would be helpful for staff is to have, very solid direction on sort of the groups that we want to move forward with, because when I take this to the regional planning committee in updating the charter, I'll recognize that there's a space for those voices at the table. And that's what gives us the impetus to go out and, talk to Caltrans about getting a representative on board, and or go through an application process for some of these other groups, maybe like a cross-border representative or an environmental justice group. So we do want the direction today to be clear enough that it allows us to do that. If we leave it too open-ended, then our charter doesn't really give us the push to move forward with selecting those new groups. I hope that makes some sense.
It does.
So it sounds like, just to maybe, Dwight, if you don't mind, I'll summarize. We talked about the environmental justice, the Caltrans, and then potentially OPC, and then the Coastal Conservancy. Is that correct? Those are four.
And cross-border was the other.
Cross-border.
Maybe we could just sign off on the two that came to us in the packet separately to give Sarah the clear direction on Caltrans and an environmental justice rep, and then in some other more open way, keep the others floating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess just from a staff perspective, and sort of moving this forward, certainly the Caltrans, the environmental justice, I think the cross-border, we could put in there for now if the group agrees. And then, have those other conversations on the side about those other Sacramento groups, OPC, Coastal Conservancy, and maybe pursue those next year once we get more clarity about, participation in the meetings going forward.
That makes sense. Serge, if you're ready, I'll make a motion on that much of it.
Sounds great. Thanks for helping push that forward. Yep. Is there a second?
There is. Sankey here.
Great. Thanks, guys. Sarah, you want to vote?
Yes, I'm going to take
first, and Bill Sankey second.
Thank you for that. Doing like triple duty, taking notes and voting today. Okay, so on item number 4, so this will be the recommendation to update the charter with the addition of membership from environmental justice community, Caltrans, and the cross-border community. So City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Dedina.
Dedina, yes. Imperial Beach,
Thank
yes.
you. City of Del Mar, Council Member Warden.
Yes.
Thank you. City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Bhat Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. I have City of Chula Vista as absent. City of Coronado, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you. City of Encinitas, Councilmember Hinsey.
Yes.
Thank you. I have City of National City absent. City of Oceanside, Councilmember Keim.
Yes.
Thank you. City of San Diego, Councilmember Campbell. City of San Diego, Councilmember Campbell. I'll come back at the end. City of Solana Beach, Deputy Mayor Hagenauer.
Yes.
Thank you. County of San Diego is absent. Port of San Diego is absent. And U.S. Navy, Walter Wilson.
Navy, yes.
Thank you, Walt. And just returning to the City of San Diego, Councilmember Jennifer Campbell. Okay, we'll consider that an absent vote, but that motion passes with all others present voting yes.
Great, thanks everybody. And then, although it's not part of the charter, discussion. One thing Sarah and I talked about next year was doing a little bit more field. Hopefully, when we get back to normal, maybe hopefully it'll be in 2021, we do a field trip. For those of you in the committee for a while know that the last few years we've done one to Silver Strand and then IB, the Bayfront, to see some projects, great, interesting projects. And then obviously to see the Cardiff project. So those are great meetings. And I think Dwight rode his bike and we met at Del Mar, which was cool, but really good, and get everybody in the field. And so hopefully we can do that again. And especially we'll have so many new members as well. And with that, we'll go on to number 5, and that's the regional plan vision presentation. And this is a discussion item, and Sarah will give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the next item for discussion, we've got a 7 to 8 minute video that our wonderful production team is going to pull up here in just a moment, which just gives an overview of the regional plan. And so if you sit on the SANDAG board or some of the other SANDAG committees, this might be a little bit of a refresh for you, but a new group and a new perspective, hopefully, to provide some input on today. So after watching the video, we'll invite the working group members to provide feedback on the 3 questions that are included in your agenda packet today for this item. We'll also show those questions on the screen after the video. And we have SANDAG staff on board taking notes, and they'll definitely relay this information to our regional plan team. And we also have 2 members of our regional plan team on deck as well to listen in today and potentially answer any questions if they do come up. Allison Wood and Tuere Fowla are here with us. And so then after the video is shown, Mayor Dedina will call on working group members to provide feedback on that. So with that, if I could ask our production team to pull up the video. And Arthur, we see you sharing screen there. We don't see any video yet. There we go.
Sarah, sorry about that. I thought you guys were seeing that. Do you want me to start this from the beginning?
Yeah, thank you. We didn't hear any sound and it just popped up just a second ago.
There's no audio?
There wasn't, I'm seeing no shakes of heads from our members as well.
I can't see anybody, so I just need to know, are you hearing audio?
We are not hearing audio.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Now, Arthur, the video is playing now, but I'm not getting any audio.
I'm Colleen Clemenson, Planning Director for the San Diego Association of Governments. Today I want to show you the vision for SANDAG's 2021 Regional Transportation Plan, a vision for a transportation system that's faster, fairer, and cleaner. One of the most important things SANDAG does is develop a regional transportation plan, a long-term blueprint for how we will grow and how we will get around. We update this plan every 4 years to account for factors like population growth, economic trends, new laws, and evolving technologies. We took a different approach this time, making this one of our most transformational updates ever. Historically, Sandag planned to improve traffic by widening roadways where we have bottlenecks and adding transit in the same corridors, hoping people will use it. Now we have much better data about where people are coming and going, and new technologies have widely expanded our transportation options. Laws about air quality and protecting our environment have been strengthened, and the need to address social inequities has become urgent. And technology has matured to a point where we can dramatically improve what we have and realistically plan for new ways of getting around. Clearly, we must also account for the COVID-19 pandemic and all the unknowns it has created. At the same time, we must recognize the fundamental things that will remain the same. Our major residential areas, schools, universities, and job centers aren't going anywhere. 90% of what is here now will be here in the foreseeable future. And when the pandemic passes, we will have traffic congestion again. We are already seeing this, even though a good percentage of people are telecommuting. We need to be thinking for the long term, and we will need this vision. Our planning team spent the last 15 months pouring through data, reviewing mountains of public input, and researching the latest transportation innovations. What we have developed is a vision for a transportation system that's faster, fair, and cleaner. Faster by reducing traffic congestion and speeding up transit, connecting our communities. Fair by investing in a system that increases affordable transportation choices, and cleaner by ensuring we meet state and federal environmental standards. Today, our roadways are inefficient. Multiple studies have shown that adding lanes actually increases traffic. Within a matter of months, traffic jams return. We need to address the inequality in the transportation system as it relates to low income, minority and senior populations, and ensure that all of our residents have equal access to things like high quality jobs, education, and healthcare. There are many legislative mandates that must be met. State and federal laws call for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and reducing air pollution. New targets set by the state require the San Diego region to reduce the number of miles traveled per person. These laws require Sandag to meet the targets through transportation and land use solutions. By getting people to walk, bike, share rides in carpools, van pools, on transit, and making shorter trips. The newest state law, Senate Bill 743, requires that any transportation project that increases vehicle miles traveled, such as roadway widenings, must mitigate for that increase with a project that does not increase vehicle miles traveled, such as public transit, walking, and biking. We have some big challenges and some big goals. How do we get the job done? With the 5 big moves: flexible fleets, mobility hubs, transit leap, complete corridors, and the next operating system. 5 interreliant strategies that, when linked together, can link our transportation system in a way never done before. Together, they provide a new and powerful way of addressing the region's transportation problems that we've struggled with for decades. Transit rarely gets us within walking distance of where we want to go. We change that using the 5 big moves. Flexible fleets solve that problem by providing connections that extend the reach of transit, vastly increasing the number of people who could use transit as a viable commuting option. Mobility hubs connect communities across the region so that people will have an alternative to having to own a car. And for transit to be competitive with the automobile, it needs to be fast. This is what we call transit leap, commuter rail, light rail, and the next gen rapid, all providing convenient, safe, affordable transportation. Complete corridors allow us to use technology to organize and manage our corridors and to streamline traffic in a more manageable way and provide equitable access to meeting our daily needs. The glue that really holds these strategies together is technology. We call it the Next OS. It allows us to optimize the overall system by wirelessly connecting vehicles, coordinating traffic signals, and providing real-time information for our travelers. This technology was not as mature a decade ago, but technology will dominate the future of transportation. Together, the 5 big moves are 5 interdependent strategies that give us a real shot at solving our transportation problems. That is what is so brilliant about this vision. The vision for the 2021 Regional Plan is a long-term investment in the region's future, developed through data, analysis, and input from you. The well-being of our region, this wonderful place we call home, depends on us to make meaningful changes today.
I like those aerial shots of I think it was San Elijo Lagoon, right? And that was great. Thank you for that. I want to thank the production team for getting the video up and running. And before we just jump into discussion, are there any public comments on this item? So please raise your hand or your virtual hand.
I'm not seeing any raised hands, Chair.
And then I know you had a question. Is there a URL to this video on the chat? And then just to, again, some of the discussion questions and just to think about sort of the opportunities that this vision presents, the challenges, and then something you haven't seen as part of this video presentation that would help your city or agency implement your own plan. So with that, I guess we'll open it up and for feedback from working group members on the discussion questions or anything else on this issue. Now we move forward.
Yeah, if I could have our production team pull back up the slide deck. I know it's got those discussion questions to help guide us today. Thank you.
Sarah, I'll let you manage the, if you can help with manage just people raising their hands and stuff. So anyway, go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. Let's go with Councilmember Warden first and then Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. Just a lead-in question. Can you summarize what's the approval process or the timeline that's going to unfold as this Vision 2021 goes forward?
I will jump in here with a broad overview, but I'm going to kick it to Allison Wood or Tuari Fowler to provide some additional information if needed. Our regional plan has to be complete, I believe, by October of 2021. And so the draft plan and the draft EIR, I believe, will be out in the May-June timeframe of next year. Allison or Tuari, please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, or if there's additional detail there.
Sure, I'll jump in. Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, our legislation, the extension actually allows us until the end of 2021 for the adoption by the board for the 2021 regional plan. And so, as Sarah said, right now, currently we're looking at late spring, early summer for the release of the draft plan, as well as the release of the draft EIR, and then late 2021 is when we would present it to the board of directors for approval and adoption.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, thank you. And I think City of Oceanside would greatly benefit. We had, for the first time, an economic development element of our general plan adopted last year. And, it was a little surprise for me to see the numbers in terms of leakage to the city. Over something like 76% of our workforce travels an average of 22 miles by car alone. And so there's like staff estimated a $600 million leakage because, no daytime crowd. So transportation projects are very, very critical. It would be great if we could have the trolley system in Oceanside, down Coast Highway, Oceanside Mission. But truly, we really have missed a lot of, like, for the connectors for, say, the Sprinter, because we definitely have destination places like the Tri-City Hospital, Maricosta, the mall, the courthouse. Lots of people work at these places, and the linkage to especially the coastal cities, I think, would be mitigation. I'd like to see that mitigation, that funds would be available to mitigate on the coast for the issues that we care, that are very near and dear to our heart, like us, sand replenishment projects, regional projects, and funding to for the lagoons in San Diego County and Buena Vista Lagoon, for example, now that we have an EIR, and the regional sand projects that we're hoping to continue to have at some point. So this is very, very critical. The linkage has to be linked for our coastal cities especially, but it's time. It's unfortunate that Oceanside, the third largest city in the county, is at the far end. And where are we at? University City for the trolley. It's creeping, but it's not here yet. So it'd be great if we could, like, we're ready. We have probably the biggest impact on the environment in Oceanside, and it would be great to stop working on these very large road projects and switch to something that would be much more beneficial to moving people around, ensuring that it's at a cost that everyone can afford. I went to school, to college on the East Coast. I didn't have a car. I went to law school in the Bay Area. I didn't have a car. And it was wonderful to be able to have public transportation, so close. And so as a student, so affordable. Thanks.
Hey, Serge, can I jump in there?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So I'm putting my MTS hat on for a little while, and I know that NTCD has planned to double, basically over the course of the next several decades, the rail service on the shoreline through Del Mar, and I guess I'm pretty sure it starts in Oceanside and gets everybody downtown in the morning and gets them home to work. So the coastal route, rail-wise, is probably going to stay heavy rail. I asked her, with all due respect, I think it's going to be a long time before MTS is able to get the funding and the right-of-way and all the other things that go with expanding the trolley that far north. In fact, most of the planning at this stage is in the South County. Some 805 work, some Kearney Mesa work, some planning's going on for those areas right now. From a coastal perspective, particularly where Coronado is concerned, we have a significant part of the workforce that comes to Coronado every morning and leaves every evening that has no connection to our community at all from a residential standpoint, or even maybe some lunchtime business in the downtown in terms of economic impact. But in terms of moving people to the military base, not just Coronado's Naval Air Station, but the two other significant Navy SEAL bases, and of course the Oceanside bases and the San Diego bases also impact their communities quite well and quite heavily. We're not using our bay quite the way we should be, and there's some initial discussions going on to incorporate in the regional plan some sort of ferry service, and I've been pushing for that very hard, and I understand Chula Vista and National City are also interested in pursuing this, even to the extent that it might be initially in the 7,000 passenger a day kind of trips a day kind of numbers are coming out of some of the early work that MTS is doing on that. I even heard some stuff about the propulsion service, or the propulsion of the ferry actually being electric as opposed to diesel, which would be good for the environment as well. So when we think about these plans that are along the coast, the major corridor along the coast is of course 5, and it's getting a lot of work up in the North County area there. I think the carpool lanes are going to extend up to Oceanside with the next project that's got environmental clearance but doesn't have money yet. So when I think of opportunities and vision the vision has for my city, I'd like to see incorporating the transportation for the military workers, whether they be active duty or civilian, be a big part of the focus. The challenges obviously are going to be the money, right? The 200 billion, I think, is the initial number, which the old plan was 170 billion or something like that. So just 50-year expenditures, but it's a lot of money, and there probably will be a tax in 22 or 24 to support this. And so we'll all be paying attention to how that plays out. And of course, at the Sandag board, there's still not a cohesive vision. I know that the staff has done a tremendous job. Colleen and her team, I think this is probably the 12th or 14th time I've seen this presentation, and it's getting better and better, and it's starting to mean more real to all of us. I think that the practical matter, though, is going to be creating the political will to do this as a region. And I know Sandag's doing a great job of making those sales pitches. So all of us on this committee who have touch points different than what Sandag is really generally pointing out are going to be really important to get the message out that this is a good idea, that coordinating this in a respectful way for the environment, as well as a respectful way for the workers and the social equity that's being incorporated into this plan is also a significant part of what is good about it, and will, I think, go a long way to making it saleable to a much broader coalition than we might have seen for the Measure A tax that was several years ago. And so I think the promise is there. It's some really, really big thinking, something that our region, I can honestly say, having grown up here, isn't always that good at. And so be able to wrap our arms around this is going to take all of our efforts, particularly those of us who are sensitive to the environment and sensitive to the coast, who are serving on this committee because that's what we feel are going to be really need to be involved in making this thing a reality for our region. It's a huge project. And again, staff's done an amazing job putting it together. It's visionary, not just for our San Diego region, but this is something that should be basically reproducible in other parts of the country as well. And I know that Sandag staff's been approached by other cities as well to see some of the work that we're doing here, because it is groundbreaking. It is fantastic if we can pull it all off. And as we know, the law is pressing us this way. So I can't really think of anything that's part of the vision that I didn't hear about already, because it is so all encompassing. And I'm just hoping that the region can wrap its arms around something this big and make this a reality. And it's going to be up to all of us in our touch points and our influence groups to actually help make it a reality. So it's a little bit of a challenge to all of us too, I think. So just my thoughts, and I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. And yeah, good thinking. Additional questions, comments?
I have my hand up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd like to echo what Esther laid out and turn it into a bit of a challenge for all of us. I'll give a bit of an analogy. As a computer scientist, I think in terms of ones and zeros, bits. And those bits, 8 bits turn into a byte, and a byte turns into a computer program. And then you're able to take things and crunch on them. So what's the crunch here? I'll use Del Mar as an example. I live in the south end of Del Mar. The 101 bus is a 2-minute walk from my front door. The railroad tracks are a 30-second walk from my front door. Where is the nearest railroad station for me? Solana Beach or Sorrento Valley? So I can't get on this railroad and go anywhere from Del Mar. So I get on the 101 bus. Where does that take me? Well, it takes about half an hour to get to Encinitas. And if I ride my bike, it takes 15 minutes, my e-bike that is. The university is 5 miles to the south, UCSD. So I take the 101 bus there, and that takes exactly 18 minutes to get there. That's not bad. How long does it take me on my e-bike? 18 minutes. If I want to go to Trader Joe's inland, 5 miles, or Torrey Pines High School, is there a bus? Absolutely no bus at all, because there's no bus on Del Mar Heights Road. So Esther's point, which I think we really all need to listen to, is having local public transportation that gets us locally to the things we do every day, our job, our school, our grocery shopping, and going to meetings. I'm on the NCTD board. I understand what NCTD wants to do, but to get to an NCTD board meeting, if I want to take public transportation, I've got to take the 101 bus, timing it right, to Solana Beach or Encinitas, And then I take the train, I wait for it, and it doesn't exist until after the meeting's over to get up to Oceanside. And then if I get off there, I'm nowhere near the NCTD. I'd have to take an Uber to get over to the meeting. So this point to point is actually really important. And why is it important? Because it's both quality of life, stress, a way of living, getting our students and our seniors into our public transportation system, and using this network to improve our environment. We've got to have, and that's the other thing, these coaster trains and the sprinter trains are greenhouse gas generators. The new engines are a little tiny bit better, but these are not trains that are using electricity that's made from renewable sources. You know, we really need to rethink this and think in terms of greenhouse gas free, point to point public transportation that gets us from our homes to our jobs and our grocery shopping in an efficient way that's faster than e-bike. So, you know, I really welcome this plan, but I'd like to see us, and that's my challenge here. Let's think about what would it take for every one of us in this meeting to use public transportation exclusively for the next week. Try it, and you will start to understand how far short our current public transportation comes.
Thank you very much. Great comments. Yes.
Yeah, and if I could just say, Bill, I didn't mean to have a trolley in 4 years. Okay, I know that. I'm looking at 2050. You know, I'm thinking about our future generations and how Oceanside is going to be economically and environmentally sustainable. But we have to offer something to people in order for people to buy into this. And so how are we going to do that at the street level? How is this going to improve our lives? And I'm telling you, 20 years ago, I was promised by NCTD, which was set up differently, connectors to these places, because, you know, Sprinter doesn't go anywhere, you know, so we need it to get to places. When I worked at the courthouse, I was a deputy public defender. The judge from Escondido said, you know, it would take me 2 hours to take the bus from Escondido to Vista to go to work. So a lot of our clients would be late. If they miss that bus, you know, they may not show up. We're talking about, you know, poverty, you know, people with lower incomes. We need to plan for everyone. To order and to have that connection, of course, for this group to the coast. And for me, it's about preservation of our coastal resources for prosperity purposes. And we don't do that now. While this process is going forward, it's going to be destroyed. So how do we do that? How do we insist that mitigation funds be allocated with a mind towards the coastal cities, because we have a difficult time getting inland cities to agree to this, you know, regional solutions. So how do our coastal cities, you know, what is our buy-in? So that's what I meant to talk about. Thank you.
I read you loud and clear, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there other questions or comments?
Yeah, we have 3 raised hands. We can do Councilmember Hensy, Councilmember Warden, and Councilmember Bob Patel.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of those challenges that we face in North County, I think that we can address them through the flexible fleets suggestion of the 5 big moves if it's done well. I know that our city's climate action plan envisions that someday soon we will have electric shuttles that are kind of running our main arterials and getting people from inland to the beaches and to our main shopping areas. And that's something that hopefully we can partner with bigger agencies like Sandag on, who might share some of those goals. So the flexible fleets in partnership with smaller electric shuttles. I think it's also really important to think about how these shuttles and flexible fleets can be serving both bicycles, so people who want to put their bike on a shuttle and then, you know, have a ride in some of the coastal areas is important to keep in mind. I attended UC Santa Cruz, and part of the impetus to ride a bike was that you knew you could get on a shuttle to take you up the biggest hills and through the most dangerous parts of the city. And so I hope we can keep shuttles that also serve bikes in the forefront. And then I also serve on FACT, partner of Sandags, and I think that they would be a great partner for flexible fleets, especially because they have an eye towards those who have disability. And so just remembering that oftentimes it's our neighbors and our partners with disabilities who have the most difficult getting around our county to their essential errands. Let's see, the last thing that I would suggest is we, in the city of Encinitas, this Living Shoreline project is such a success because we have been able to add acres of beach to our city, and that creates this new destination where people feel comfortable going because, it's not bluff backed and there's less of a risk of coastal erosion. And so this has become a really, important destination. And so we as a city are thinking, how do we get people there to this new beach, even though we haven't added more parking? So we're working on adding more bike parking, but also that our streets all have to make sense and be comfortable for people to ride. And so, as much as Sandag can assist us with getting our critical intersections to be safer and more comfortable for kids and families to navigate, that's really high priority for us to be able to keep getting people to the beach. And the last thing is that I think there's going to be a new park and ride in the city of Encinitas as part of the Build NCC corridor improvement. And I hope that we can work together in the future to use that park and ride as beach parking, and that we can figure out how to be getting people who park there to our beaches, because parking is always a scarce resource. So that's all that I have to add. Thanks for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, if I'm next up, I guess. I'm a big fan and supporter of the 5 big moves, and there's lots to say about it. I agree with most of what people have said this morning. Let me just focus more narrowly on what our mission as the Shoreline Working Group is, and things that maybe haven't been mentioned. The beach access part of it, access to recreational resources, is not prominently featured in the 5 big moves, and maybe it should be. As I think Terry Gashelin mentioned, we do have rails that run along the coast, but they don't necessarily let you get off at places that are convenient to getting to the beach. So that's a suggestion. In my community, Del Mar, the fairgrounds is an opportunity to do lots of things that need to be explored. And I can just leave that at that. Some of you touched on the first and last mile issue, which remains a huge challenge. There are a variety of ways to address it, flexible fleets and this and that, but that does need to be prominently featured. Something, the last time I looked at the research, it said most people won't walk more than about 2 blocks, and they won't wait more than about 3 to 5 minutes. So a transit system that doesn't meet those parameters, you by definition lose a whole bunch of people. Now, I know there's another side to that, and I've heard Hassan say if we can just get 10% of the people off the road and onto transit, that would be huge progress. But I'd like to think we're going to think bigger than that. We should be getting more people than that off the roads if we can. From the Shoreline perspective, we are a target destination for mitigation that comes from these various transportation projects that we should be flying the flag about and get ourselves written into the 5 big moves if we can, for 2 reasons. One, we can really do wonderful things about coastal resources. Number 2, one of the biggest challenges, and I think Bill mentioned, is funding all of this. And funding all of that means we have to bring the community along. They have to see something in this whole program that they value for 200 billion or whatever. And that can be expanded beach resources, access to recreational assets, and that kind of stuff that we can provide. The final comment, and I'll shut up, is some of you are on the Secretary Kim's Low-Sand Rail Task Force that I sit on, and we've been discussing a whole lot of things about rail, and one of them that I was pleased to hear is that BNSF, which does our freight, is already well into studying non-GHG alternative modes of transportation for freight rail, and so are NCTD and the passenger service rails, and I believe that's written into the state rail plan. So we should be eventually, and hopefully sooner rather than later, seeing trains that don't generate GHG. So those are my thoughts, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dwight. And Councilmember Bhat Patel.
Sure, thank you, Chair. And yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the sentiments that have been shared by fellow board members. I think similarly, one of the things that I know I've talked about quite a bit on the NCTD board is that, you know, our infrastructure, as someone who's grown up here in North County and continue to live here, the reason why I have challenges, at least for myself, and I know that folks within my own community have challenges taking public transit, is because of the whole chicken and the egg, right? We don't have the infrastructure in place in order for us to actually get to places in a convenient manner, have the frequency in place in order for us to get there. And then also, similarly, I think what was shared was with regards to the first mile, last mile aspect. Of course, we've started to implement the pilot with the Carlsbad connector, which due to COVID had to be, you know, discontinued for some time, but I'm looking forward to that coming back. And similar to what Deputy Mayor Hinsey said, definitely looking forward to the fleet turning into more of a sustainable fleet versus gas-powered vehicles. So looking forward to that aspect of things. One of the things that I also wanted to, or I guess 2 points I wanted to make sure that we brought up were definitely ensuring that we're looking at each of the mobility plans from the different communities. I know we have a sustainable mobility plan that we're going to be implementing and continuing to implement in our city. We're actually revamping that in the next few months. And I think it would be really important to make sure that we're looking at where we could overlap. I'm sure you all will do that, but just wanting to put that out there to make sure that if there are opportunities for cities and the different agencies involved to be able to actually ensure that we have true connectivity, so that we're not necessarily, you know, maybe stepping on each other's toes in certain regards would be really helpful. I just think that making sure we have open lines of communication in that perspective would be really, really important as we move forward, because this infrastructure definitely needs to be built. I feel like it's like 30 years in the making, and I really wish we could have had it at this point, but I'm looking forward to it in the future. And then the other piece, a couple of other pieces. I know that I've brought this up at our NCTD board retreat and maybe at Sandag's retreat as well, making sure that we're doing the research on the generational differences and how we can actually market to the different generations in terms of how we can ensure that we increase ridership. Because I know with NCTD, we struggle with the ridership aspect of things. And that's the piece for me that, as someone, again, as someone who's in the millennial generation, knows that it's we need to make it something that folks would want to really enjoy taking, and it's something that actually is convenient and actually connects folks to places they need to be. And then lastly, one of the things I know that we're going to be looking at as a board at NCTD, and I look forward to seeing a little bit more of that in this plan, and as a city as well, is transit-oriented development and trying to figure out how we can ensure that as we start to think about ways that the different agencies can work together, that's another opportunity for growth for us, and obviously a way for us to actually ensure that we're planning in a sustainable way. So thank you, and I look forward to it.
Great comments. Additional questions or comments? Or Sarah, are there more people with their hands up?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Or any additional public comments?
No more hands.
Great, thanks everybody. And so, yeah, I think just echoing on what Dwight said, I mean, all great feedback. And, you know, I'm not sure if it should be the 6 big moves, and that's really the whole parks, beaches, and open space. And, you know, we've seen all of us, you know, in coastal areas and places with open space, pretty much every area in the county saw the love that obviously people in San Diego have for our trails, our parks, and especially our beaches. And because the water was polluted and beaches closed pretty much in IB, most of the summer I spent, you know, my time early in the morning or posting up, working virtually from parking lots from Del Mar and in the water, you know, to Encinitas, Solana Beach, Cardiff, and then up at Trestles and La Jolla, Mission Beach, Mission Bay, you name it. And, you know, just profoundly moved actually and inspired by the love that people have. More than that, just like wow, like, you know, people just went to the beach and needed to be at the beach, right? There's nothing else to do. But, you know, and I think this issue of equitable access and equity environmental justice also means that making sure that people have access to these resources. And that's why I think, Kelly, you mentioning, Encinitas and, the San Elijo Lagoon project and these trails, Dwight, I was up in Del Mar, on the South Side Trail system. I'd never been, in that little overlook a little bit up east of the PCH, where you can see around the water and, San Diego Lagoon and, leopard sharks there. It's amazing, just absolutely beautiful. And so I think what we have the opportunity to do is frame this issue so that, as we improve San Diego, we improve access to open space, our trails, we increase the size of our beaches and make sure that people have access to beaches. And, we all know that we had weekend crowds during the weekday, July 4th crowds during the week, in Coronado, giant beach, filled every inch of it. Mission Bay, crazy crowded, well, every beach, right? And so I think that's what, from what I've seen, the brilliance of these integrated projects, and just beautiful trail projects, and the east-west connections like San Diego, where you can go from Del Mar eastward, right? And guys are riding their bikes and people are walking and running and stuff. So I think that's the opportunity for all of us, is right, to frame these mitigation projects so we're enhancing access to open space. If you saw the KPBS piece on natural climate solutions and carbon sequestration and wetlands a couple of days ago, it's also the opportunity not just to do adaptation, but mitigation, so that we're enhancing these parcels, restoring wetlands and seagrass, as well as riparian, and sequestering carbon. Right? So it's like a quadruple win. So I think we have a great opportunity to help frame that. But I think Sandag and all of us in the region have to do a lot better job of not taking open space and nature for granted, and making sure that we're integrating that access component into every time we talk about nature and beaches, right? I think in equitable access. In LA, they've done a great job of outlining how kids can't get from San Fernando Valley to Malibu. It takes 3 hours on a bus. And I think in San Diego, we have issues like that as well. So, which is why it'd be great. My kids, when they were teenagers, took the bus and train from IB to Trestles. That was an interesting journey, and camped there in their junior high. And so anyway, so they got a good picture of it. I think it took like 6 hours to get there or something. So we got a lot more to do, but thanks for all the folks on this panel. And I think this panel, or this group, will help us move that forward. But we've got to be really, really loud and proud about parks, beaches, and open space, right? And why that's critical. And again, the adaptation, access, and mitigation components of that, and why that's important. So anyway, additional questions, comments?
Doesn't look like there's any other raised hands.
Great. Well, as I say, I'm sure all of you are going to enjoy your travel plans for holidays, but it looks like no one's going anywhere. So we all will be enjoying our beaches even more during the holidays. So anyway, let me look at the agenda. Hold on. Anything else I'm supposed to announce, Sarah? Except for, I guess that wraps up. And unless people have additional comments, and our next meeting will be in a vastly different world than what I call year zero in 2021, March 4th at 11:30 a.m. God knows what the world will look like then. Some of us maybe will have gotten vaccines. We're not sure yet, but I did the New York Times. They have a little thing you go through to see when your vaccine is. There's many millions and millions and millions of people in this country ahead of me, and then hundreds of thousands ahead of me in San Diego. So anyway, so I'm looking forward to, thank God for the beach, right? And being in the water. So anyway, with that, have a great rest of the year, and we'll see you guys next year in 2021 in the new world. So
Happy New Year.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, best to everybody. Take good care.
And thanks all of you for all your work you do to protect the coast.
Yeah, thank you.
People don't thank you, but I guarantee you a lot of people in San Diego are definitely grateful for all the work that you do. It definitely made a difference this year. So thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.